All righty. So knowing that old expireds create an opportunity just like new expireds, any other questions on our expired conversation of yesterday? Is everyone excited to start reaching out to expireds, old or new?
Well, I have a question.
Yes, Alex.
So do you want to talk a little bit about, once you do get that appointment, what the priorities ought to be in that sit down?
Yeah, so I love that question. And the answer is no, not today, only because for all intents and purposes, it's the same conversation that you're going to have with a non-expired seller. And we're going to start that late tomorrow into Tuesday. So what instead, Alex, what I'll do is when we go through the listing consultation, I'll just make a note or two to say, okay, well, if this isn't expired, here's how it might shift just a smidge. But for all intents and purposes, the conversation it's just a simple process. And it's the same process that you would use for a non-expired seller. Does that help? Perfect. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to do at least 4 things today. And we will I will work mightily to see if we can't get you out a little early, because I know that there are a couple of you who are here in the Market Center for Oktoberfest. So before they eat all the spätzle on us, Ronnie, we'll have to go down. You know what I might do? About like 4:45, I might send you downstairs to get you and me both a plate, just in case. And we can talk and listen and eat some good German food. So what I'd like to get through is for sale by owner next. And then I'd like for you to spend about 15 or 20 minutes with my good friend Christine, who's going to talk with you about lead generating inside of social media platforms. It's something that she's an expert on, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from her kind of those strategies that she uses to create lead opportunities for herself on social media platforms. And then we'll move from there to farming, geographic farming. And then we'll talk a bit about agent-to-agent referral networks. And then, lo and behold, we're pretty much done with source of business. So we'll kind of finish up source of business with Karen Mulreed. Stop interrupting my students. We'll finish up with a conversation about putting all that together and creating a bit of a lead generation strategy, which you'll work on overnight. We'll talk about tomorrow morning, and then head into sellers starting tomorrow. Sound good? All righty. So for sale by owners, the reason I follow expireds with for sale by owner conversation is because the process is similar and different all at the same time, and yet it's a short add-on conversation after we've had the conversation about expireds, right? Because you can certainly use, if necessary, you can use some of the conversations that we've worked on for the expireds on the for sale by owner side. So quick question for you. Have for sale by owners in the last 18 months increased or decreased? What do you think?
I would say increased.
Increase.
Yeah, increased. I would 100% agree with that, right? Why have they increased?
With the market so hot, people figure,
Yeah.
oh, it's easy to get my house sold. I can do it myself and save on paying a commission.
That's exactly right, right? That's exactly right. And so, and what's interesting to me is that when the market gets like it got, the exact opposite is actually true. They kind of need us more, simply because there are a lot of real estate agents who don't know how to handle the market that we've been in for the last 12 months. Never mind homeowners attempting to handle all of the intricacies of multiple offers and positioning things such that, I've seen a lot of for sale by owners come on the quote unquote market, right? Because I don't really consider them on the market. They're off over here. They're waving a flag saying I'd like to sell, but they're not really on the market. And so I've seen a lot of them pop up and not pop off because the numbers are so ridiculously absurd, right? It's one thing to position powerfully when you're a seller and say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to throw caution to the wind here and see what happens. It's another, right? Like, I mean, so the house I live in is probably worth, I don't know. I think the last appraisal I had was like 750. Maybe it's 8 right now, right? Because of what we're experiencing. I could certainly put it on the market for 1.7 just to see what would happen. Like, why not? And the answer is, what would happen is everyone would ignore it, right? Because it's just, I could put it on for 1.2. I could put it on for 1. I could put it on for 950. Like, we're talking about numbers that just that aren't in line with what reality is. And even though the market is a benefit right now to sellers, you still have to be in the ballpark of what is reasonable, right? And as I mentioned, the unit we're going to sell for my grandmother starting next week, the advice there is, well, what if we strategically put it on for 450, let people fight over it and see what happens, see how close to 5 you can actually get, instead of deciding to put it on for 525 and hoping for negotiation, right? So that's the whole concept of, are you positioning for competition or are you positioning for negotiation, right? Negotiation brings you exactly that. Competition brings you exactly that, which is better for your bottom line, negotiation or competition. I can tell you competition all day long, right? So the for sale by owners have certainly increased. And the only reason I ask that question is because I typically start this conversation by saying, look, going after folks who are selling on their own it's excellent gravy for your main lead generation strategies. However, there's not really enough of them out there for you to create a big business, or at least a consistent business, by simply targeting for sale by owner. That doesn't mean they're not valid. I mean, I think they're a great path for listing inventory. Usually in a more normalized market, there's just not enough of them. Even with more of them today, if you took all of them and sold all of them, there's still not quite enough out there for you to really grow a substantial business and create consistency with it. So look at it as gravy on top of your spätzle, just to tie in our evening events, right? Look for, which by the way, I did make as well. So for those of you who are here, not only do you get, and I made the spätzle not from a box, I made it from scratch. It's homemade German pasta, like from flour and egg, because if you've never had spätzle before, the last thing I want you to do is come here and have spätzle out of a box. That would horrify me. So you're going to get actual, real German spätzle, as my grandmother taught me. So, God, I wish he'd stop talking about German pasta, they're all saying. Please, let's get on with it. So we have a question then. The for sale by owner, generally speaking, isn't listed with a real estate agent for what purpose? Not a trick question. Generally speaking, why are they not listed?
They don't want to pay the commission.
Exactly right. That they're attempting to save money. And so one of the things that, one of the strategies that I used to use for sale by owner was a very simple one, and I'll outline it for you. The first thing you need to do is you need to look for them, right? Where do you find them? Where do you search out folks who are selling on their own? A couple of different places.
Craigslist.
So Craigslist, online, let's broaden that to online. You can look on Craigslist, you can look on Zillow, right? Because for sale by owners can post on Zillow. Right, those are probably the two best places. There are other for sale by owner sites like, forsalebyowner.com or fsbo.com or any of those kind of sell it yourself type sites. And yet, for the most part, people who are serious about getting their home sold, they're going to broader sites like Zillow and Craigslist to make sure that they get a broader bite at the apple. Other than online, where else are you looking?
Just driving by.
Yeah, right. They put signs out, right? Sometimes they're kind of comical signs, like painted on plywood that says, please call for sale or something silly. And yet they do put signs out. So you can certainly search there. Where else? Anyplace else? I'll tell you, we used to find for sale by owner opportunities inside of our database. So don't neglect your database, because not everybody in your database wants to say, hey, I want to hire you. Some people in your database say, hey, I want to sell my house, but I'd like not to hire you. You need to know those opportunities as well, right? So those are the three main places that you can find for sale by owner opportunities, including, by the way, when we talked about online, we didn't mention social media, right? Pay attention on social media. Sometimes if someone's looking to sell their house themselves, they may post it, and you have an opportunity to check that out as well. I would also, for me, the raving fans inside of my database, over time, I trained I had 5, like maybe 6 real raving fans in my database. They were trained to also be on the lookout for opportunities that were off market. You know, I'm a creature of habit. I drive the same way to Stop and Shop. I drive the same way back and forth to the office. You know, really what you should do as a real estate agent is always be changing up your route, because then you're driving on more and more streets, and you can see what's going on more and more streets. I used to train my raving fans to be on the lookout for things in their neighborhood, and just give me a call. Hey, did you know that so-and-so put a sign out they're looking to sell? Right. So I used to have that opportunity as well. And so what you can do with for sale by owners is this. It's a pretty simple strategy. And it starts with recognizing that the for sale by owner didn't call you for a reason. And that reason is they're not interested in hiring a real estate agent yet. And the key word there is yet, right? For sale by owner is a waiting game. It's a game of patience. And so what I used to do is as follows. Step number 1 was collect the data, right? So I would find them. Back in my day, I was also looking in the newspaper. I don't necessarily encourage that, because I think all that happens today, if you can actually find a newspaper, is that you get your fingers dirty and nothing else is in there, right? So stick with the sources that we just mentioned. And oh, you know what? There actually is one other source. Let's talk a smidge about this source. You can utilize something like the Golden Letter as a mass mailer into neighborhoods, where you may uncover people who are interested not necessarily in putting their house on the market. However, if you did something quietly, so you can find off-market opportunities that may, if you don't reach out to them, flip over into for sale by owner. So it's almost like the pre-for sale by owner, by utilizing that Golden Letter opportunity. And for those of you who are unaware of what the Golden Letter is, it's just a simple tactic that you write a letter that says, hey, just wanted to touch base and make sure you understood how beneficial the momentum in the market is right now for sellers. Curious if you had any thoughts about maximizing your equity by becoming a seller today. Or curious, did you have a magic number in mind that if your home were worth X, you would wave your hand and say, hey, bring me a buyer, right? There's a bunch of different versions of that letter that are going around. And yet you see the opportunity, right? It's the pre-for sale by owner. Get to them before they decide to sell on their own. And perhaps you then have an opportunity for an off-market situation. Donna.
I just wanted to add that in the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook group, in notes or files, it might be files, there is the Golden Letter, and one of the options, the option that we use there, is there with the follow-up smart plan that goes with it.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Yeah, so check that out. It's the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook group page. Yeah, love it. So step one is gather all that data. Step number two is reach out, right? You need to have an initial contact or conversation. However, the big mistake that real estate agents make, and they make it consistently with for sale by owner, is they call or write a letter or show up at the front door, right? There's a whole bunch of different ways you can make that first contact. And I will tell you that I've done all three. I haven't necessarily found that one is necessarily better than the other. What I do find is that if I can find their telephone number and get them to answer the phone, it's a whole lot simpler for me to sit in my office and have these conversations than get in my car and drive all over creation to have a face-to-face and or wait for some kind of response back from some mailer. Right? To me today, if I could go back and do a redo of my career, I would have reversed my call to mail ratio. I would have called way more and mailed as a follow-up. And what I did a lot of mailing and I did less calling behind it than I should have. I relied on them to contact me. And the good news is, right, what I sent was compelling enough that I did get a good amount of business from that. However, it cost me a fortune because I mailed like a crazy person, right? I'm off to say that the reason the reason the Postal Service is struggling right now is because, you know, I stopped listing houses. I think I single-handedly was carrying the United States Postal Service for a while. And what I would do differently is I would be more on purpose with reaching out on the telephone. I would still do the mailings, but I would do them as follow-ups, right? For the opportunities where I wasn't able to convert or get somebody actually to speak to me, then I would follow up. So let's get back to the for sale by owner. So strategically, you're going to reach out. I prefer the telephone. And the conversation is really quite simple. And it's this. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. For sale by owner, this is Rick Scott with Keller Williams Realty. I see that you are looking to find a buyer for your property. And they say, uh-huh. I say, that's awesome. You know, I make it my business as a full-time professional real estate agent to know all of the properties that may be available for my buyers, both on and off the market like yours. And they say, uh-huh. And I say, is there anything you can tell me about your house that might be of note? Can you tell me a little, you know, what is it you're asking? What's your time frame for your move? And would you mind if I kept this on my list of things to show potential buyers? Well, then the uh-huh turns into, oh, well, we're asking $595 and it would be great if we could be out by Christmas. And no, we wouldn't mind if you kept that on the list at all. Excellent. You know what? I do work with a constant stream of buyers, and I'll be excited to mention this to them should it meet their criteria. Hey, and you know, if there's anything I can do to help you out, would you mind if I left you my contact information? Again, it's Rick Scott, 203-247-3153. You have an awesome, awesome evening. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye. So somebody tell me what I didn't do. What didn't I ask them?
I have an idea.
What didn't I ask them?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Are you answering my question?
Yes, yes,
what-
yeah. So I have asked them also if I can host an open house for them.
Like that idea. Let's get an answer to my question first, though. What didn't I ask in that
You
script?
didn't ask
You're gonna
for,
ask them to list.
not for the listing.
Exactly right. I didn't ask them to list. I was non-invasive, right? People like that idea when it comes to surgery and realtors. Non-invasive, right? And colonoscopies, by the way, right? Non-invasive. It's always a lovely way to go, right? Oh boy, we were recording that, huh? So that's now recorded for all eternity. All right. You know why? Because I saw that little Cologuard commercial last night, so it was like in my head. Anyway, the idea of a non-invasive approach, remember we talked about disarming language for expireds? Well, this is a disarming conversation for sale by owner. Because everybody else who called them told them, how they would never be successful, because don't you know all the statistics that say only 12% of for sale by owners actually succeed? And of that number, half of them actually have a realtor bring them their buyer. So that, why on earth would you call someone who you're interested in actually hiring you at a later date and all but call them stupid? Because that's what you're doing when you're bringing out those statistics. You're just calling them dumb. You see that? That's not good. It's kind of like when I was a team leader and I would talk to agents who were affiliated with another brokerage. The last thing that I would ever do is talk smack about the brokerage that they were currently with. First of all, there's a code of ethics as real estate professionals that means something to me. And so I just don't think that's the path you go down. And yet, think about this. If Donna's at a different company and I'm having a conversation with her and I start talking smack about the company she's with, well, by default, I'm kind of calling her stupid. Because if it's so bad there and I think it's so horrible, well, why on earth is she there? You have to be really careful about how you present yourself, right? And the things you say about others. Instead, I'd rather Donna, by me focusing on her business, her goals, and the tools and models and systems that I know that we can offer her to grow, I'd rather her come to her own conclusion that, maybe where I'm at isn't quite as good as I thought. But that's not me bringing it to her attention. That's her self-discovering that. The same thing exists when you are consultative as a listing agent or a listing agent to be, right? When you're looking for potential clients. And so remember that there's no conversation about the house, about them listing the house, about in that first conversation. Remember, I said this twice before, I'll say it a third time now. One of the best ways you can create trust with someone is by doing or saying something that they don't expect. And when they get you on the line, what they're expecting is to hear how you're the top producer, you're number one, and you can do all the wonderful things that they can't do on their own. Why don't you at least meet with me? Why don't you at least let me tell you how wonderful I am? And I can show you some pretty awards that I've won as well. Maybe that will convince you that I'm worth an extra $30,000 of your money. Right? And it fascinates me that we don't think that's what we're saying, but remember, people don't hear you the way you speak. People hear you the way they think. So you have to meet people where they are. And in a for sale by owner's head, you're just calling because you want the listing. And by the way, they're not interested in that or they would have called you already. Make sense? So that's the conversation. The follow-up conversation happens a week later. For me, it was Mondays. Every Monday, I had my list of for sale by owners that I had made the initial contact with, and I would give them another jingle on Monday morning. And I would ask them just a couple of questions, and it was always the same questions every time. Ready for them? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, it's Rick Scott at Keller Williams Realty. Happy Monday morning. Hey, I'm just curious, is the home sold? That's question one. Is your property sold? Well, no. Oh man, that is too bad. Hey, I'm curious, what was your traffic like this weekend? There's question two. What was your traffic like this weekend? And they'll say, oh, we had a bunch of people come and take a look and whatever. Oh, that's great. Hey, I'm curious, is there anything you needed my assistance with? Any way I can help you out? No, I can't think of it. Bring us a buyer if you have one, but we're gonna keep plugging along. You know what? That sounds great. Hey, I wanted to just call and check in with you this morning. You have an awesome week. You know where to find me if you need me. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. What did I not ask for again? You got it, the listing. I'm always offering my help. What were the two main questions I was calling to drive? What points was I driving home by asking those two questions?
Nothing's happening.
We're trying to figure out if they had any traffic going to the property.
Right, so I want them
Is it
to
sold yet?
say, no, my property's not sold, and to describe the traffic. And there's a strategy behind that. Because now, a week later, on Monday morning, I'm gonna call back again. Hi, it's Rick Scott. Happy Monday. Hey, I'm curious. Is your house sold? And I'm always excited when I ask that question. Is your house sold? Because I want nothing more for them to say, yes, the house is sold. Excellent, that's awesome. I am so glad. And I would be glad, right? It's what they wanted. My job is to help them get their result. And so in this way, maybe I just offered them a little bit of moral support and pushed them forward. Yay, I didn't get paid for that, but that's okay. Is the house sold? No. Oh, that's too bad. I'm curious, what was the traffic like? Well, it was way slower this week. And as a matter of fact, we had somebody who said they were going to come on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And, we stayed home. We missed my son's soccer game to be sure that we could be home for that showing. And they stood us up. They never showed up. Oh man, I'll tell you. I hate when that happens. I am so sorry to hear that. Hey, is there anything I can do to assist? Any help that you need from me? No, but thank you for calling. Okay, well, you have a great week. Bye. Guess what happens the following Monday? Same freaking call. Hey, it's Rick. Is the house sold? No. What was your traffic like? It was crickets. Oh, you're kidding me. Holy Christmas. I'll tell you what, I was busier than a one-armed paper hanger this past weekend. Hey, is there anything I can do to assist you? Well, I have to tell you, we're getting pretty frustrated. I completely understand. It can be a real frustrating experience to have to kind of do all this work on your own. It's kind of why real estate agents exist, right? It's why I have a job. So, listen, if there's anything I can ever do, you know where to find me. You have a great week. And there were times by week number 4 that as I was saying, have a great week, they're like, no, don't hang up. Or sometimes I would hang up and a day later or 2 days later, they'd call. Or on week number 5 on Monday morning, I'd say, hey, it's Rick. Oh, thank God you called. Can you please come and take this house off of our hands because we can't stand it anymore. Didn't even have to ask the questions. And I will tell you that is where patience and professionalism come into play, right? It's where they intersect. Because the patience I showed in just expressing my concern, asking the questions, following up, seeing how they could help. And I have people ask me all the time, well, what if they say like on week number 2, well, someone asked us for something called a disclosure form. Do you know what that is? Oh, well, I'm curious, were they asking about the federal lead disclosure form required by the federal government, or were they asking about the state property condition disclosure form, which is required by the state? Which do you know which they were asking about? Oh, there's 2? Yeah, there's definitely, well, there's 2 required ones. There's a couple of other ones that we sometimes see in the field. Do you know which one they were asking about? No, we don't. Well, would it be helpful if I sent them to you so you could kind of get some advice from your attorney maybe about how to complete them? Oh, would you do that? Yeah, absolutely. What's your email address? I'll send them over now. Do me a favor though. Do please make sure you get some professional advice before you complete them. Okay, thanks. Why would I do that? Why would I send them the forms that they're missing?
To show how useful and helpful you can be, and they can get a taste of your service.
There you go. That's exactly the right answer, right? Why wouldn't I? If my whole goal is to help, Give them the info, give them the data. Look, they can get them someplace else if they really want them. It's not like they're exclusive to real estate professionals. They can call their attorney. They can go online. They can Google it, for goodness sake, right? And yet, if you're the one who offers them the documentation, you're now the one who's helping throw them a lifeline, helping them move forward, caring about them, being a valuable resource. Here's what I don't want you to do. I don't want you to send them and then start asking questions about how they complete them. Because for that, we need to have an agency relationship, right? We need to have a document that creates a fiduciary level relationship between the two of us before I can start really advising you on things. However, until or unless you have that with a professional realtor like me, I can certainly advise that you, or suggest or encourage that you speak to your attorney. We don't have an attorney yet. Got it. Would it be helpful if I passed you the name of an attorney to speak to? I work with a lot of great attorneys. Would you like my favorite? Oh, you do that? Yeah, absolutely. You seeing how this works? I'm going to tell you what, it is a strategy that works like a charm. If it sounds too simple, it's because it is. It's truly that simple. You don't have to spend your time, if you're interested in converting for sale by owners, you don't have to spend your time banging your head against the wall, trying to do the dance of look how wonderful I am. All you need to do is last. And what I mean by that is anyone else who's contacted that for sale by owner doesn't typically make a second call. 50 to 75% of any contact that's made doesn't have a follow-up. So the second time you call them, which is your first follow-up, the competition has shrunk from everybody down, everyone who's called, which is a small portion of people, down to 40 to 50% of those people. By week number 3, it's pretty much down to you. And 30 days later, it is you. You're the only one who's still keeping in touch. And that shows them so much about you and how you run your business. I'm not kidding when I say by week 4, sometimes week 5, they are like begging, please come and please just come and do this. I just am so done. I get it. I'd be happy to come and help. I have some time later at 4:30 or at 6, which works best for you. Again, it's just a script that you pivot to an appointment setting opportunity. Questions, comments, concerns about for sale by owner?
Well, Rick,
Frank.
and I mean, that for sale by owner, even if they continue to be a for sale by owner, can only sell to one buyer. What I've said, and I think, you know, from the last class is, hey, if the house is too big for someone, too small for someone, or just doesn't fit one of your visitors' likes, would you think of me and send them my contacts?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Right. And so asking that question, offering the open house, do me a favor. For me personally, I wouldn't use that as my intro conversation. If you want to offer that out as in your follow-ups, right? Week 2, week 3, week 4, I encourage that. I do, however, believe that both of those approaches are a little real estate-y for the first call. You want to make it as non-real estate-y, as non-about you as possible. And hosting the open house and or obtaining, you know, the buyers that don't work out is a little more about you than I think you want the first contact to be. You want to make it all about them and then say good luck and thank you. Yes, ma'am. Donna.
And you know what's interesting about what you just said about not making it real estate-y? It's almost as though you're talking to another colleague because they have decided to sell their own. So they're like a real estate, unlicensed, but they think they're a real estate agent. They think they can do. So if you chat with them like a client, it's like a colleague. It's almost the same. Oh, did you need a disclosure? Let me get that for you. Here you go. And because you think you're me, you think you have the experience and the knowledge that I have, I'm just gonna let you sit with that for a minute.
Yeah. That's
You know,
right.
it's like, until they realize, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. And I love the patience. Years ago, somebody said to me that it's like you're playing a game of chess. So you're just making a thoughtful move after a thoughtful move. And you know, it takes forever. It's not checkers, it's chess. It's a long haul type of thing. And like you said, you're just there once a week calling them. It's lovely, actually. I love that.
And you know what's so interesting about what Donna said is that it circles right back to something that Anna put in the chat before. It's about a process of self-discovery, right? That you don't have to tell them that this is harder than it seems. Because when you do, you just sound like a salesman who's out looking for a commission. Instead, ask great questions and offer support. Give them the tools that they need that they don't understand, and let them self-discover. Right? I can tell you, people I would send disclosures to would be like, "Oh, thank you so much," and like within 20 minutes after they got them, they would email back. They oftentimes wouldn't call, but they would email back saying, "Oh, these are long." Right? I do encourage you to get some assistance from your attorney on that. Right? But they weren't expecting what was sent. And so the self-discovery process of, oh man, I don't even understand how to do this. What's this about? How am I going to do it? And that's when all of a sudden they say, okay, I think I've now self-discovered why people hire real estate agents. But then it's them, right? They've come to that decision, because once they make that decision, then you're the one that comes to mind because you were so helpful. John, and then Alex, and then we're moving forward.
So I was gonna ask, so let's say like you call a for sale by owner, and let's say they actually sold the house. Can you turn that into like potentially into another opportunity in terms of like, because now they have to find somewhere to move?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the scripts that we used for expireds then come into play, right? So if Monday morning I call and say, "Hey, is the house sold?" And they say, "Yes." That's awesome. When did it happen? Tell me all about it. I'm so excited. I want to hear everything, right? Again, now I'm like a friend. I'm like a colleague. I want to know the details. Oh, well, somebody came on Saturday. They made us an offer. It was a really good one. You know, thank you so much for those forms, because they asked for them. And if we didn't have them from you, we wouldn't have had them to give. Oh, no worries. That's so great. And so, hey, I'm curious, now that your home is sold, where are you headed? Well, that's kind of the struggle, is that, you know, we accepted an offer contingent upon us finding something. I got it. And so I'm curious, where is it that you're looking? Oh, well, we're looking to say just downsize in the same town, or we're looking to go 2 towns over. We're looking to move south. We're looking to do whatever. That sounds awesome. Hey, I'm curious. Can I assist in any of that? I'd be more than happy to kind of shoot on over tonight at about 4:30 or maybe at 6, depending on which is best for you, to have a bit of a buyer consult to understand exactly what you're looking for. So I can assist you in that process. Or would it be helpful? Are you moving to Boca? Okay, do you have a real estate contact down there? Would it be helpful if I put you in touch with one of the powerful people in my team that can help you find a property located down in Florida? So you absolutely, John, if the house is sold, you pivot that into, can I assist you on the buy, or can I refer you out to somebody who can help? 100%. Alex.
I have buyers who are, bona fide ready for certain FSBOs. So I'll be showing. I'll be meeting them. I mean, if they're there.
Yeah, I love it. And so is the question, is the process any different?
No, I mean, because, I have a real need, since inventory is so tight, to show, the right buyer those properties. So yeah, it puts my foot in the door without having having the agenda of selling their house and bringing my buyer. And that-
100%. And what I love about what Alex just put on the table is this. If you really do have buyers that the home meets the criteria of, absolutely ask to show it, right? Or if you really do have buyers, ask to preview it. I oftentimes leave that out because it's so cliche in the real estate world for agents to call for sale by owners and say, hey, I have buyers, right? And no, they don't, right? They don't. In Alex's case, she really does. And so to call and simply say, hey, could you give me some information around your property based on what I've seen online or the description that I saw in Craigslist or whatnot, it sounds like I may represent buyers that this meets at least most of their criteria. Can I ask a few questions? Can I gather some data? In that scenario, Alex's next question would be, I'm curious, are you protecting brokers? What does that mean?
Are you offering commission?
Yeah, so as a for sale by owner, are you willing to pay the agent who represents the buyer? I will tell you that about 7 to 8 times out of 10, the answer to that question is yes, we're protecting brokers. So if you bring me the buyer, I will pay you a certain commission. I'm looking to save the list side of this, right? And so if they say yes, you say, great, can you tell me what that is? I do have a document that would need to be signed between you and my brokerage prior to me showing my buyers. And I'll just prepare that and send that off to you. What's the best email address? We'll send it via DocuSign, zippity-doo-dah, right? And you have that agreement of compensation sent along. If they say no, then you say, okay, awesome. So I'll let the buyers know that the buyers would then have to compensate me, and we'll see if we can still set up a showing around that. Here's my advice if you're showing for sale by owners, legitimately showing buyers for sale by owner properties. If you make an appointment, go to the appointment. If the buyers pull up and say, oh, you know what, this one was, I'm not sure this was for me. In that scenario, I might ask the buyers, hey, you know what, would you do me a favor? Would you do me a favor of just kind of walking through this anyway? Minimally, you get to go to the door and say, I am so sorry, but the buyers have decided against viewing the property. I'm sorry to have wasted your time today, right? Do that in person. If you do show it, follow up with the for sale by owner, even if the buyers hated it, because your follow-up call is then the call that I made the first time. Your follow-up call is to say, hey, just wanted to follow up. The buyers that I showed earlier today are going to pass on on your opportunity. Thank you so much for the arrangement. Hey, would you mind if I just kind of kept in touch and gave you a call if I had additional buyers who I thought might work for your property? And they say, no, of course, please do that. Great. And now I've had my first call differently than what my first call was, because my real first call was, can I show your property? And now you start the Monday morning calls from there. Great point, Alex. Thank you. Anybody else on for sale by owner? All righty.
Sorry.
Yes, Frank.
If you say that most of the time the for sale by owner will protect the agent on the buy side, how do you protect yourself on that? I mean, I know you have the buyer's agreement with the buyer, right? But how do you protect yourself for receiving that commission?
It's an agreement of compensation, right? That was the piece that I mentioned about there needs to be an agreement between you and my brokerage prior to me showing the property. And so you ask the details of what they're willing to pay. And if you're accepting of what they're willing to pay, you kind of bring that back to me, and I'll write you an agreement of compensation that's specific for that. I don't love, people always ask me, well, why can't you put a fill in the blank something or other on DocuSign and Command in the library? And I don't do that because I'd rather have a conversation with you to make sure that you are as protected as possible in certain scenarios, right? Because each scenario is a little bit different. So we get to have a conversation. I will write you a short agreement of compensation. We'll get that to you. You get it to the for sale by owner. They sign, I sign, then you go show, and everyone has an agreement in writing for what happens if those particular buyers buy the property.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Without further ado, my friend and yours. Where is she? Oh, there she is. Christine Olenek. Well, it's so lovely to see you.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Sure thing. So as I said, Christine's going to spend some time with you kind of walking through social media as a lead generation tool. I'm going to not say anything more. Christine's going to take it from here. And if you have any questions, pop them in the, do us a favor, pop the questions in the chat. And Christine, I'll kind of monitor the chat for you and interrupt if there's some questions.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you for having me. So Rick asked me to go through the 3 most effective means of social media for lead generation. So I'm going to start with Facebook and start with basically the easiest form of lead generation. And that is simply to go through, this doesn't even involve posting anything, but go through the birthdays of the day, scroll through your news feed, see what your friends are posting. You know, recently was kids going off to college or kids' first day of school, job anniversaries, things like that. And simply not only, post, congratulations or happy birthday, pick up the phone and call them. Say happy birthday. I mean, it's such an easy way to pick up the phone, start that conversation, say happy birthday, how are you? They will ask you, oh my God, how are you? And real estate always comes up. So you could say, oh my God, well, I've been busy selling homes, or however you want to do it. But it's just such a simple way to start the conversation. Also, join, for the moms on the call, join a moms group. I can't tell you how many times they're asking for plumbing recommendations, or even a lot of times they also do ask for real estate agents. So that's also another way to definitely lead generate. And then don't just post pictures of homes for sale or just listed. That's going to turn off your friends, your family, your audience. They want to see you. They want to see you. You could do, a goofy picture, a day in the life kind of thing, but they want to see you. They want to see your family. Yes, real estate is part of who you are, but be creative with it. Just a silly example is my husband just got his real estate license, so I was kind of showing him the ropes. We went to a beautiful showing, a beautiful house. It had this incredible kitchen island. And instead of just taking a picture of the kitchen island, I took a picture of John behind the kitchen island. And my headline was something along the line of, John's really getting this real estate stuff down. It got like 30 comments on it. So if I had just posted the kitchen, hardly any, it wouldn't engage the audience as much as it did. So not only was it personal, but it also was real estate. So that's kind of a fun way to do both. Also, you want to do videos. You could do short little ones. You can do videos of homes. Certainly people love to see homes. Just try to keep them interesting. And you don't want to show the whole home. You want to say, text me or email me or come see this open house today, and you can see more. And then if you do post real estate, make sure you also post things of value. Buyer's guides, seller guides, things like that. Have them, direct message me or email me for, the fall, winter, the seller's guide just came out. Things of that manner. On LinkedIn, you can use LinkedIn also. Again, it's a business platform, so you can send direct messages through LinkedIn. I just did a post, about career night on October 19th. And, great way to lead generate as well. You can certainly put your listings on there as well. But again, don't make it just 100% all real estate. And that's basically all I have for you. All this stuff that I said about Facebook, you can do the same thing on Instagram. You just don't know their birthdays, but people on Instagram do post, just married, just engaged, just, new job, kids off to college. it's such an easy way to start that conversation. You could do that all day long for lead generation.
So Christine, let me ask you a couple of questions, because
Yeah.
listening to what you're saying, it seems to me that the power of social media platforms is utilizing it as a tool to create and then deepen relationships.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's not necessarily this tool where you put your little face out there and say, I'm a realtor. And then the world says, oh, you're a realtor? Well, I need a realtor. Let me call you for my real estate needs. It really is more of a platform to develop and communities and foster relationships, so that it's almost like an online version of the database conversation we were having. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And it's interaction, it's engaging. And once people do post on, if you do a post and people, like for John's post with him in the kitchen, I got 20 comments. I respond to every single comment.
You do
make
indeed.
sure if somebody's took the time to post something, make sure you comment back.
Yeah, it's fascinating, because I started to watch Christine online, and one of the things that you're not lying when you say, if somebody comments, you're right back there commenting. My bet is that you're also commenting offline by either making a phone call as a follow-up or your private messaging to further the conversation. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. John, George, I'm on Zoom. And also, sorry, I just lost my thought. My son just walked in. But for birthdays, so if you'll get like 200 people, saying happy birthday. Make sure you respond to every single one of them, or pick up the phone. Thank you so much for posting on my birthday page.
That's awesome. I just had Spitzel delivered to me. I love that, Dave Harris. He's going to walk past Ronnie in a second. Hold on. Thank you, Dave Harris. I love you. So he was like, wait a minute, where is that coming from? God sounds just like Rick all of a sudden. So the idea of, the reason I ask those questions is because I know for me, right, I always want to be cautious that we're not thinking that, advertising and marketing on social media is a slightly different conversation, right? What we're talking about here is creating communities, fostering relationships, and using the information. When you really think about it, it's like a legal way to stalk people and understand what's happening in their lives, so that you can then use that information to create deeper connections. Not disingenuously, right? I mean, be genuine about it, but you're creating that. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you, and then we'll go to the questions, is I just literally heard, I think this morning or yesterday, that one of the rules to remember for success in creating deep relationships on social media is to be more focused on being interested than interesting. Could you comment on that?
That's absolutely right. I mean, again, when people post anything that they post, they're hoping that people comment on them. I mean, nobody wants to post something and then have no comments on it. So again, it's just saying, oh my God, this is so great. Congratulations on your kid or your birthday or whatever it is. Again, it's just starting that conversation and coming from friendship, service. How can I help?
I love it. I love it. I'm sorry to eat in front of you all.
That's totally fine.
Very little food since 7:30 this morning. And so that Spitzel hit the spot. Donna.
I don't have a question. Can I add?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I love everything you're saying. And you know what's so important about this medium, because I use it as well, is that it's a place for you to be your authentic self, and with parameters, because now you've decided to use this as part of your business. But people want to see who you are. They want to see into your life as well. It has to go both ways. Don't you agree? Christine?
Absolutely,
has to go
absolutely.
both ways.
They,
Yeah.
they want it, yeah. My post that where I'm goofy and silly and
Yes.
yes, there's a house behind me, but I'm doing something silly
Right.
will get so much
So
more
many.
engagement.
So we had a bag of Dove chocolates. This is really silly. And I'm telling you, I got so many hits on it. I couldn't believe it. When you opened up the little Dove chocolate, inside of it, it had some sort of inspirational saying or something that was upbeat. So every night we took a picture of the one or two that we had. We took a picture, posted it, and I called it the wisdom of the chocolate. And oh my God, it was ridiculous. You couldn't believe how many people commented on this.
Right.
I got a private message. So, and this went on, it was a whole bag of chocolates. We only had one or two per night. So this lasted for a while. Then we got another bag because it was going so well. I'm like, people. So a woman private messaged me and she said, I noticed that you stopped posting the chocolates. Are you going to pick it up again? And so I'm having a whole conversation with her now, but listen to this. She was a nurse working in a nursing home. And every day she went and shared it with her patients to brighten.
That's so cute.
And they right? I mean, just simple things. You never know what's going to strike somebody in some sort of way. And the Facebook Lives, I don't get all like made up and make sure my hair's done because this is who I am. What they've seen the professional shot. They know that I can look, professional, but sometimes they just turn it on and we're just doing it. And people, they want to see who you are. And then
Absolutely.
you do the same for them.
Yep. And they really get to know you. I just got a lead. I got a listing and it was listing and buyer side. Literally met her on Instagram. She said, I just like what you do. I feel like I got to know you. I feel that we work really well together. The house sold in, a nanosecond and I'm still in touch with her. She's actually going to move again. That was literally from Instagram.
Exactly. And every once in a while you post something like you said from the kitchen in the house, or one day I'm in somebody's like screen porch and the turkeys were running through the backyard. I went to preview the property. I just decided, let me do a Facebook Live and so no additional charge for the turkeys. I mean, and people love that. And you're
exactly.
You're not pushing real estate. You're just, this is who I am and where I am.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at my feed, there are not a lot of homes on it. Yes, there are some, but it's 20%. But I do videos. I do short little videos. I take your pictures now while it's still, green outside, post that everywhere. And I do tips, top 3 tips for being a seller now, or top 3 tips for buying, things like that. But it's not just pictures of homes for sale and listed. People will tune you out.
So let's kind of go into the psychology of a little bit of that, right? Behind the scenes a little bit, because first of all, what Christine and Donna are talking about, it's what makes them interesting, right? I listed another house. Here's another 4-bedroom colonial. That's not interesting to anyone but the people on this call, right? Realtors are interested in that, but the world isn't interested in that. And so that doesn't make you interesting. What makes you interesting is all this other stuff, is the Dove chocolates, is the turkeys, is the turn on the camera and do a quick, hey, I'm here and I just wanted to, show you something or whatever, right? Those kinds of things make you interesting. And when you pull down the real estate related posts and just are human, guess what? You can be the best real estate agent on the planet. People are going to hire you because they like you. People are going to hire you because they feel like they know and understand you and that their values align with you. That's why you get hired. And what's brilliant about what you guys are talking about, how you use social media, is you use social media to allow strangers and your database, but strangers to see inside of you and your life to make you more real, to make you more tangible.
Exactly.
That's why you get hired.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it goes back to people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Yeah. And they have to get to know you.
They have to.
before they're gonna do business with you. And just one other little silly example, I have this great home, this Mediterranean home with this beautiful, beautiful pool. I was posting it every week, open house, just that picture because it's so stunning. I finally did one with me pretending to be in the pool on a raft, on one of those, flamingo rafts. It blew up. So
Yes.
it was the same picture. It was just with me in it on a flamingo, and got many, many, many more comments on it than just the house.
It's
Yeah.
fun. It looks like you'd be a fun person to do business with. And of course, you add in the professional stuff. So now you got both sides. And who
Right.
wouldn't want to buy a house with you, Christine?
Well, thank you so much.
I don't know.
Well, and I'll tell you,
Yeah, I gotcha.
one of the things to remember about, and then we're going to go to Anna and John, one of the things to remember, especially in the last 18 to 24 months, is that the world prefers to smile. And there's been a whole lot going on in the last 12 to 24 months that isn't smile worthy. And so if you're the one who allows them to smile because you're goofy or you're on a flamingo or there's turkeys in the backyard, if you're the person who makes them smile, guess what? You are far more remembered than the person who doesn't make them smile, right?
Absolutely. And
or
also
even
during
worse.
this, yeah,
Yeah,
I
or
didn't mean
even
to
worse,
interrupt you. I'm sorry.
makes them not smile, right? Which goes back to the conversation we were having the other day about be really cautious about what you post and stay away from controversial topics. Because if you're the one who makes them not smile or cringe or whatever because of something you've said, well, now you're doing the exact opposite of what the business benefit of social media can be. Sorry, Christine, go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I'm sorry. I've got a little echo. Also during COVID, I mean, certainly for the first couple months, everybody was on social media. I mean, everybody. It was their only way to connect with people and hear the news and hear what's going on. It was, the only source of connection. But I got another listing from somebody who had an agent. She fired that agent actually, and or it expired. She said, "You're the only real estate agent I consistently see on social media. My other agent, she's never on it." So I got that listing. It wasn't even for my posts. It's just she saw me all the time, and that's happened quite a bit. So you just have to be consistent with it. And that's not spending all day on it, but just be consistent with whatever you're doing.
To Christine's point, I have been doing this long enough that when I was still listing property, it was long enough ago that having a laptop, right, for business was still impressive. Like, oh, wow, laptop, nice. I will tell you that in the early days, when I merged my business with Debbie's, she and I used to bring a laptop because we were still going to people's homes at that time, right, for the actual appointment. We then pivoted to bring them to the office. We'll talk about that next week or tomorrow. But we were still going to their houses. I'm going to tell you what, we oftentimes didn't open them. We didn't have a fancy PowerPoint. We didn't have whatever. But as we were taking our stuff out of our briefcase, the laptop came out and opened facing us. We never touched it or used it, but we got so many great technology points just for bringing the laptop. And that's kind of what Christine is saying. If you have clients who are social media aficionados, if social media is a part of their life, it's important to them that it's a part of your life. And so to Christine's point, she was the one they saw. It was important to that seller that someone they hired be social media literate. So Christine got the job. I bet you sold the house too, didn't you?
I did. And they bought one. Yeah.
But of course. Anna,
Yes,
what's your
exactly.
question?
Yes, so to addition to what Christine just said, what I did with my Instagram, I was like trying to create some videos, and one day I got a present from my clients. It was gourmet food, like with wine and cheese, and I started make like a video as my dog like just digging that that box, and I open and slowly each present, and I can tell you how many views I had. probably like 50 and so many, comments just for that blurry, stupid video that I was thinking, but people were so engaged and to see, and, my client actually saw that, and, it
That's
just,
great.
I have like one more plus.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
it. And
that's
you know,
great.
what's so cool about it is who doesn't love a surprise, right? So you just got to share your surprise with all of the people who follow you on social media. And so they were as engaged in the surprise as you. Your clients thought it was awesome because you couldn't say enough to them how much you appreciated it more than that video said that to them. You're also sending a message to anyone who hasn't used you professionally. Look what happens when I come to work for you. People love me enough that they send me these wonderful things. So many different messages that you got to send with that simple video and post. I love it. You guys
Exactly. So it's personal and professional. You're killing
Mhm.
2 birds with 1 stone. That's brilliant. That's exactly how you should be doing it.
It's engaged other realtor to reach you out, it's just your coworkers even.
Yeah, love it. Love it, love
Yep.
it, love it. John and then Barbara.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, when you guys were mentioning about like keeping it like, a good balance between personal and professional, was really insightful because like I just converted my Instagram my personal Instagram to my professional Instagram because I never used it, so I didn't have any like no photos anywhere that I had to hide or anything like that. I didn't have anything on it, and so I posted my like, hey, I started officially at Keller Williams, yada yada yada. And I've been inactive for almost over a year, and I got the most likes and most comments I've ever received on any of my posts, like by a lot. And then but then when I posted in the sign in to win, I got like made a slither of the same engagement that I got from a regular photo, and it's
So
like
yeah, because that's going to happen. So me too. I posted the sign in to win all over the place today on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, the whole bit. I've gotten a little, 1 or 2 things, but because it's not necessarily a personal post. You getting a new job, that's a personal post. My husband did the same thing. His LinkedIn, it exploded. What did you get? Like 2,000 views or something crazy because it's personal and people are happy for you. With the sign in to win, that's great and definitely post it. But again, it's not as personal but perhaps do a video. Do a little video like, hey, check out my post today about this great giveaway that we're doing. Do something like that is going to engage with a lot more people.
That's a great idea to balance out the kind of stale business post because that's what we're talking about, right? And that's true. And
Yep.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, John, because it's a perfect example of exactly what we're talking about. Still do the posts, right? Because there are some people who will only see it on social media, but don't expect that kind of staler business post will get the kind of attention that the turkeys got, right?
Yeah, and
so,
then another thing I've been doing too, like to kind of balance that. So on Monday, I posted like a 1 minute 48, like almost 2 minute video, pretty much, because I made a poll on my Instagram, and I was like, should I make a video on how to get your real estate license? And so almost over 60 people replied saying yes. So after seeing that, I was like, okay, let me make a video. And it was a lot harder than I thought. So I went on YouTube for a couple hours to learn how to do it. But then that video didn't do too bad. Like I got like almost 200 views on it, a couple comments, and there's not nearly as much engagement as like the photo when I said, hey guys, I'm officially a realtor. But like people want to see videos on stuff like that. So the polls are like me asking what do you guys want to see, and it's like I'm showing them exactly what they're telling me they want to see. And that's like
Absolutely.
one way. So actually later today, I got my second video coming out soon.
Love it.
Put that on YouTube too. You'll get more views on YouTube as well. But yeah, that's great. People love the videos.
Yeah. I will say that I had a conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, and I asked them what their social media strategy was, and their answer was, my social media strategy is non-existent because I am a massively private person. And I said, I thought, you know what, I understand that, right? Because social media, from what I personally don't love about this, about social media, is I'm not a big fan of people knowing where I'm at. Now, for the past 2 years, I've been in this room, so it hasn't been difficult to figure out where I'm at, right? But I'm just not a fan of, oh, look, Rick's out to dinner, or Rick's doing this, or Rick's doing that. I'd rather do it, and then if I choose to tell people I did it, I choose to do that. That looking past that, however, what I said to this person was, what if you made some decisions? What if you chose that there were certain pieces of your world that you will start to share? You don't have to like be, I'm not talking about like, you know, jump out of the shower and do a little dance for all the world to see. I'm talking about being selective. And if one was being selective, we'll see if this gets the thumbs up from Christine. This is what I said though. If I were being selective, do things like what people love are, they love pets, they love kids, they love travel, and they love kind of interesting events. Are those four things that you would put on your list, Christine?
Absolutely.
Right. And so that conversation was, what are you doing? How can you kind of carve out some of your world to start sharing so that people can see a different side of you, so they can get to know you and look to know you, like you, and trust you, so that you are easier to hire. Because the other thing I said was, depending on the demographic of seller that you're attempting to, a buyer or seller really, attempting to woo or attract, if you don't have a social media presence, they move on to the next person who does, right?
Absolutely. It's the first thing they're going to look at.
Yeah. Remember, guys, social media exists at the extent it does today because, for all intents and purposes, we are a voyeuristic society. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean that positively, right? We're a voyeuristic society. We're interested. There's a reason why the last 18 months has been hard for a lot of people who haven't been able to connect with people. As humans, that's what we do. We're like, other humans are what kind of drive us forward. Even if you don't think that that's you, it's still you. And the last 18 months taught me that. I never thought that was me, but my goodness, seeing some of you for the first time after not seeing you for months and months and months, I went home and thought, oh my goodness, I'm not as much of a robot as I thought. My goodness, right? Anything else you want to ask Christine about utilizing social media as a lead generation tool before we finish this segment?
If I could just add one more thing, just it's also great for profit share. I've had 3 people now join Keller Williams because of something that they saw on social media. So, you know, like I said, career night's a perfect thing to put on LinkedIn, have them RSVP to you, you know, and 2 others reached out just, again, like, I like what you're doing. Tell me more about Keller Williams, and they moved over. So it's good for that as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Christine. I love the idea of things like Red Day, right? Something that might resonate with someone because we're taking time out of our business day to help the community. Something like you can go, what if you did a post about being excited to go and spend time with Gene Rivers in the business planning clinic next week, right? Everyone needs business planning. And for those of you who don't know, it's pretty much not offered. If you're with a competitor, there's not a whole lot of business planning that goes on in the fall, right? So you happen to live in a place that speaks a slightly different language and brings more of that to the table more consistently. And so from that perspective, again, make it a personal post about something you're excited to go do. And you never know, you may get somebody from God knows where who says, hey, what is that about it? Can anybody go to that? And then you can offer an invite and create a relationship and maybe be responsible for someone making that move and growing your downline. I love that, Christine. That's a great idea.
Yep.
All right, guys. So 5:25, I am going to push forward with our last 2 of the day because I promised that we would end a little bit early because I can see Ronnie's getting hungry over there. because I had a plate of Spätzle. I don't think she has yet. Did you? Not yet? All right. Well, you're a trooper. So so let's run through.
I was offered though.
Oh, well, there you go. Let's run through two last discussions. The first is farming. And we're gonna spend time, and by the way, thank you so much, Christine. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and talents with us. We appreciate it. Geographic farming, right? So geographic farming, anybody want to tell me what that is? What am I talking about when I say geographic farming? What does that mean?
I think like picking a neighborhood, like in a certain area, and just like reaching out to them and specifically in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so geographic farming is going to be some sort of a farm, right? And the reason we call it a farm is because you're going to find a plot of land, if you will, right? Especially in a geo farm, you're going to find a plot of land, you're going to start planting seeds, you're going to cultivate those seeds over time. In other words, reach out to them, engage them, perhaps have an event for them, right? A lot of times that's done via more of like a 12 direct program. I'll talk about that in just a second. So, we have our 36 touch program, which is going to be for our database, our sphere, and our communities. And the geographic farming is really a way to reach out again to the outer edges of those circles around you, to the strangers, and pull them in closer to you. You want to turn haven't mets into mets, people who don't know you into people who feel like they do know you. And one of the ways you can do that is by farming. And so again, you plant those seeds, you cultivate those seeds, and then you, like any farm, you reap the rewards of the harvest once the seeds take root and germinate and start to grow some fruit. So what does that mean? The basic idea of geographic farming is postcard mailers, like once a month, right? It can be as simple as that. Many of you were on the call this morning when we talked about using Prism to customize your postcard for the Sign In to Win program, right? Part of the reason that we're excited that so many of you are going to dive into that program and then utilize Prism for the postcard mailing portion of it is because we want you to see how easy it is to utilize that marketing tool to get things in the mail, right? So our hope is that once you do it once, you'll come back and say, well, what if I then chose a farm and started to do a direct mail campaign, a 12 direct, right? Once a month for a year is a 12 direct program to that community, to that farm. We talked, I think already about the example I typically use for geographic farming, and that was the realtor that they made up. Remember Jim Smith or whatever I called him, right? Out in Colorado, where they sent postcards once a month for 12 months. And then I asked two questions: who sold you your home? And 35% of the people said Jim Smith. And then who would you use to sell your home if you were listing it tomorrow? 35% said Jim Smith. Who sold you your home? About 22 or 23% said Jim Smith, and Jim Smith didn't exist. He was just a made up realtor who they marketed 12 times over the course of a year to a certain community around. I will tell you that I had really great success with geographic farming. It's one of the other things that launched my career, because as I was looking to get my feet wet with open houses and expireds, I had some success in my first few weeks and months with that. But what I really started to do at a high level was farm. Right? Again, I didn't have much of a database, so I relied on the kindness of strangers, as they say. And so the idea of a farm seemed really, really appealing to me. I grabbed 400 properties, and I started to do a monthly mailer. It was not pretty. I made it myself on my computer. It was like a little newsletter. Today, between what you have in command, what you can create in designs, and what you can very simply hire out to, you can leverage by just kind of grabbing somebody's newsletter. You can have far better stuff than what I had. And yet it was printed on paper at my house. I did some market stats. I did some, funny stuff and some goofy stuff. And I folded it on up and I stuffed the envelopes myself and I licked the envelopes myself. Did you ever see that Seinfeld episode where George is getting married to Susan and then suddenly Susan dies because she licks all the poison off the envelopes, her wedding invites? Luckily, that did not happen to me.
I use a squeegee bottle with a sponge tip. It's a lot better.
Yeah, certainly. Right. And so the idea of I'm telling you this story because it was not sexy. It was not fancy. It was homemade. It was like me and sometimes my grandmother, if she was over, she'd be helping me stuff these things, stamping them, putting them in the mail. I will tell you though, that after only 3 months, I got a phone call. And I got a phone call from a woman who said, "Hey, I received your newsletter. Can you come and list my house?" Not making this up. That was the phone call. And I said, "You betcha. I have some time at 4 o'clock or at 6 o'clock, which works best for you." And she said, "Can you come now?" And I said, "You betcha. Let me just rearrange 1 or 2 things and I will be up. How's 15 minutes? She said, "Yeah, that sounds good." So I shot right up there. We had a conversation. I brought my paperwork. I listed her property. And after the property was listed, I asked her, you said that you received my newsletter. She said, "Yeah." And she kind of fumbled around and picked it out. And I said, "That's great. I'm curious, was the information on the newsletter helpful to you?" And she said, "No, not really." And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's a different answer than what I was expecting. And I said, "Oh, do you have any suggestions about what I could put on there that would be interesting or helpful?" And she said, "No, not really. I'm not really all that interested in your newsletter." And I said, that's interesting. I'm curious, what made you call me if it wasn't the content of the newsletter?" And she said, "Well, I opened it and I've been getting them for a couple of months. Your last name is Scott and my oldest son's name is Scott. And I just thought it would be a good match. So here you are." And I thought to myself, well, here I am is right. That was the biggest aha for me. It's like, you never know why someone is going to just connect with something that you do, say, or send. I mean, truly, you just never know. And so I was fascinated by that, but that's not the end of the story. So that was my first over $1 million listing, right? That was a $1.1 million listing. That was 1999, I think, right? In 1999, 1.1 million was a lot of money. It's a lot of money today, right? But 21, 22 years ago, it was even more than a lot, right? 1.1, I was like, I'm going to sell this house and never have to work again. That was kind of the thought in my head, right? And so I went ahead and listed that property. My sign went up. And about 3 days after my sign went up, I got a phone call. "Is this Rick Scott?" "Yes." "Hi, this is so-and-so. I live down the street from the Perez's whose property you just put on the market." I said, "Oh, well, how are you today?" She said, "Well, I'm not all that great. My house has been on the market for almost 6 months and it hasn't sold. And I'm really sort of irritated. And I just wondered if you would come over and kind of take a look and tell us what we should do to get it sold." And I thought, I'm curious. I have time at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock, which works best for you. And I'm not making this up when she said, "Well, could you come over now?" And I said, let me just rearrange a few things. How's 15 minutes? And so, 3 days after my sign went up on the other house, which is probably a week after I listed the other house, I was back up on the same street. And so I met with them. They were still listed with Coldwell Banker. So let's push a pause on this for a second. If they were still listed with Coldwell Banker, should I have gone and had a meeting with them? How did that work?
She solicited you, right?
Thank you, Ronnie. That is correct. I got a phone call from them. So they called me, so they solicited me. So I have every right to go and have a meeting with them. I don't have a right to badmouth the other realtor, right? I don't really have an opportunity to talk much about price in that scenario because that could be considered crossing the line and having a conversation with somebody who's already represented, right? But I can certainly go and talk about my services and my thoughts about moving them forward. So I went and had that meeting. They were about a week away from expiration. So I waited the week. I went back after that meeting, the day after they expired, and I listed that property for $949. So if you're keeping score, in 1 week, that's $2 million worth of inventory. In those days, you still put your properties that you listed in the newspaper, right? Remember those? For some of you on the call, Google newspaper. You'll see you'll see what they used to look like back in the old days when that was the way we actually got news, right? But the idea of putting them in newspaper, that's kind of what we did. And so the very next week, I ran an ad with my 2 new almost million and $1 million properties. And about 3 hours after our paper locally came out on Thursday, and about 3 hours after the paper arrived in somebody's mailbox that day, I got a call. Is this Rick Scott? Yes, it is. Are you the one who ran that ad in the newspaper for those 2 houses on Hussars Camp Place? And I said, well, yes, I am. How can I help you? She said, well, I certainly hope you can help me because I am so frustrated. I am listed with Coldwell Banker. Coldwell Banker was not one of they weren't a big fan of Rick Scott that week because I just started taking a lot of their inventory. I'm listed with Coldwell Banker right now, and my agent listed the property and 2 weeks later went away for the summer, and she didn't tell me she was going away for the summer. So I feel like I have no one at the helm here. And I've called and I've asked for a termination and they have granted it to me. And so by tomorrow, I will be free to list with somebody else. I wondered, could you come and have a conversation with me? And I said, certainly. I learned my lesson. I'm curious, what time works well for you? And she said, well, could you come now? And I said, you know what? Absolutely. Let me just rearrange a few things. How's 15 minutes? I was literally back up there. I listed that property for $595. So again, if we're keeping tally, we're now up to $2.6 million in inventory in less than 2 weeks. All from a printed at home, ugly, folded newsletter that I stuffed in an envelope, licked with my own saliva, and shoved a stamp on and stuck in the mail. Right? So for those of you who think that everything has to be crazy fancy, this story is for you. For those of you who think that one thing doesn't lead to another, doesn't lead to another, doesn't lead to another, this story is for you. Because I just did what somebody told me and mailed something out to a group of houses, of 400 houses that I chose every month. After 3 months, I got a return of $2.6 million. Want to know what that turned into? $2.6 million. As I do the math, oh, it's not that. Hold on. It was just shy of $80,000 gross to me. That's not a bad return, right? For printing out a newsletter every month and sending it out to everybody. What do you think? Are you willing to find a community? See, the way I looked at it was, I wasn't just targeting random homes. I chose people who kind of lived close together. My whole idea was to turn that farm into a community. You can do that more simply today with automation and social media, targeted marketing and ads to certain streets and neighborhoods, right? You can really utilize technology today to do what my idea was 20 years ago that never really showed up, except for the fact that when I would list in that farm, I would almost always list one and then list another 1 or 2. So it became like a little hat trick every time I got response, because I would turn it into additional business. Make sense? So here's what I'm here to tell you. And then Dana, I'll come to your question. I'm here to tell you that even though it may seem like geographic farming is like from the dark ages, it still works. People still get mail and people still pay attention. And you can have the same kinds of things happen to you that happened to me if you'll just, again, you have to put yourself in the path of business. And sometimes doing that means being in someone's mailbox, right? Sometimes it means being in an open house. Sometimes it means communicating with your database. And sometimes it means being in someone's mailbox consistently, such that you have an opportunity to either create a community, call behind all of that to prospect, or if you hit the jackpot every once in a while, you'll have somebody say, hey, can you come list my house? And then you turn that into additional business. Dana.
Okay, I think two questions. When you selected these homes, did you do any research or just write down a whole bunch of addresses, or did you look at who lived there or anything?
I didn't do a lick of research, except that I looked around in my office, right? At the time, I worked at Century 21. And what I saw was we had like a farming book, right? It wasn't like, we just kept track of who was farming where. And what I noticed was that so many people wanted to farm like the established neighborhoods, the condo complexes and the established neighborhoods in the town that I was looking to farm in. And I thought, well, I don't want to send my stuff where everybody else is sending it. So I just looked to see where no one else in my office was sending it. In 22 years ago, the northern part of Ridgefield, for those of you who know Ridgefield or live up here, the northern part of Ridgefield, like if you lived north of town, people thought you needed a passport to get there. That's no longer the case. And yet, when I first moved here and started my real estate career, it was like, oh, isn't that in North Ridgefield? You thought it was like Canada. And yet, so I chose to do that because people, what I heard in the industry was people were turning their nose up about North Ridgefield. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go and specialize where nobody else is specializing. And the other thing I chose was busy streets. Because what I saw was nobody was really farming busy streets. And I thought, well, that's dumb. If I want as many people to see my sign when I have a new listing as possible. So I literally took Branchville Road, Ridgeberry Road, and North Salem Road in Ridgefield, the three busiest streets in town. And I added those homes on those three streets to my community up north. And that was my farm.
My other question was, I'm losing my focus. It sounds like you didn't like vet to see that people were or were not listed. Is that okay to just send to people even if they're listed with someone else?
It absolutely is. You just have to have a disclaimer on all of your mailings that says something to the effect of, I'll tell you what mine said. Mine said, if you're currently listed with another real estate broker, please forgive this aggressive marketing technique. I don't love that anymore, right? But that is what I used, right? Instead, what I would say today is, if you're currently listed with another brokerage, please note this is not a solicitation of your business.
Okay, no, because I'm always like so neurotic about that. Before I do any kinds of mailings, I'm always like taking my list and vetting it against the MLS just to make sure nobody's house that I'm sending to has like been listed since the last day that time I vetted it. So
Yeah,
I don't
no,
have to do
no.
that. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
stop doing that, because
It's a big time suck.
that
It's a
could
real
drive you
big time
crazy.
suck.
Yeah, just have that disclaimer on all your stuff, and then don't worry about it. Any other questions on farming?
I had a quick question. So
Yes,
I was
sir.
on the Zoom call this afternoon with the KW Connect, the thing that you guys were live streaming. And one of the ladies on the Zoom call mentioned demographic farming instead of geographic farming.
Yep.
I want to know, have you tried that personally? Because she was mentioning how like baby boomers are like the generation that you need to really be on the lookout for as of now and stuff.
Yeah, so it's a great question, John. And I'll tell you, that was my big aha from that half hour was my notes are literally still right here. And what I wrote down is figure out how to write a class to teach everyone about the 4 generations that we have to address separately, right? So I'm working on that on your behalf. Stay tuned. I just have to find out more about those generations and more about where you get some of that data. And I will write and teach you what I find out. However, the idea, John, is, have I done demographic farming? Yes. Mine has been limited to seniors, but I used seniors as a demographic. I had purchased some lists in towns that I was looking to work the senior market in, because they seemed like a good segment to need to list their home if they were downsizing as empty nesters or whatever, or people who were moving south or whatnot. I'm not sure if today the silent generation would be the same as seniors. I think seniors is really bridges the gap. I think it's baby boomers and the silent generation, right, is what we might consider seniors. So I have done some demographic farming, and everything works if you are consistent with it, right? Whether you're doing demographic farming, geographic farming, I've done farming to just condo complexes, searching for either renters or first-time single-family home buyers, thinking, well, that's where they might be, in condo complexes, right? If you're renting, or if you've purchased a property but you don't have your own little piece of yard, those move-up buyers would be in condo complexes. I've done farming to non-owner occupied properties, right? Just seeing if they still wanted to be landlords and things like that. We had a lot of agents over the past 12 months do that as things went sideways and landlords were feeling the squeeze on people not paying their rents. A lot of agents were doing that kind of farming to non-owner occupied properties to see if those landlords were done and wanted to just move on and sell the property. So there's lots of different ways you can buy a lot of lists. You can run some lists off the MLS. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I guess I lied when I said we were going to finish early, so that's okay. Although Ronnie doesn't have her camera on, so I think she's downstairs having a bratwurst. That's my thought. The last thing I want to discuss with you, and we'll do this, we can do this in 12 minutes. Last thing I want to discuss with you as a source of business is an agent-to-agent referral network. Agent-to-agent referral network is an important one because agents sometimes feed you if some of your other sources are not. Right? What do we know? What do we know that happened 18 months ago? For anybody who was like a big open house person, what happened 18 months ago? Well, the world kind of stopped for a little bit and we stopped doing open houses. Right? March of 2020, all of a sudden it was like, and so if you got a whole ton of business from open houses, late March, April, even into May, even as we pivoted to the virtual open house and the Facebook Live open house and all that, we learned how to make it work, but there were a few months there that were rocky for those people who counted on in-person open houses for obtaining new business. And so you never know what might dry up, or some world event might happen where something stops. In the state of New York, it was a solid it was a year until they lifted the ban on any kind of prospecting. You couldn't call anybody for business. I mean, truly anybody, for a year in New York, right? And so you just never know. What I love about, let me take a half step back to farming. What I love about farming is that it's a system you can put in place and just cultivate, and over time, get those results. The thing that I find that people make the mistake of is they don't start planting the seeds in a farm until something goes sideways in one of their other sources. Well, then it's too late, because the farm takes some time to, the seeds take time to grow roots and germinate and grow and bear fruit and all that, the whole analogy I used earlier. So if you'll start that early and just get that going and then build things on top of it, you now have this foundation that's kicking you out a couple of transactions a year, that if you had to get hot and heavy in it, if something else started to dry up, you could then get hot and heavy into a farm that already knows your face and your name because you've been doing it for a while. So I encourage that up front. Just like I encourage building a powerful agent-to-agent referral network. I'll tell you, there's a simple process to doing this. I'll tell you what I did. I would encourage, do some version of this, right? Because there's a bunch of places to meet agents, right? What are some places you can meet real estate agents?
Happy hour.
Yeah, so events, right? If you go to events, whether they include adult beverages or not, you go to events, you meet real estate agents. You go to events out of your area, you meet real estate agents in other areas, right? If you tie that obviously to trainings or events that are real estate related, well, you have an even better opportunity to meet other agents. So, clearly in the last 18 months, we haven't been doing a lot of in-person stuff. My expectation is that as 2022 begins and starts to roll on, that events like Family Reunion and Mega Camp, regional events will start to be more in person than they are currently today. And so just by attending those kinds of events and meeting other people from the tri-state area, from around the country, from around the world, you start to grow some version of a database. However, my thought for you is, what if you were more on purpose about it? Christine, did you have a question on that?
Yeah, so how I've been doing it during COVID is being on some of the masterminds, the mega camps. I'm on the luxury calls, and I reach out to them after the call. I looked them up and I said, oh my God, it was so great seeing you on blah, 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 blah. Would love to, get to know you, have a conversation. And if you're not working with an agent in Connecticut, I'd love to be your resource. And I hope to send you clients your way as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant, right? So again, one of the things Christine hasn't said is what she does professionally is stalk people with love for a reason.
Exactly.
Right. And
basically that sums it up. Yeah.
Right. But think about how smart that is. You're on one of those calls like tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a 6-hour event that the region is producing that all of you should be a part of. Right. You've seen the stuff go out on it. Come into the market centers, get your own link if you're staying home, whatever, however you're going to work on that. But be a part of that. Find people that impress you. Find people that maybe in areas that you need coverage in, or just randomly spin a wheel and pick 20 names, follow up with them, and see if you can add them to your network. Right? I love that idea. It's a way that you don't necessarily have to be going and traveling in order to create relationships with people.
Exactly. And just to take it one step a little bit further, I also started something called Tuesday Talk Lives, where I invite some of these agents. Yesterday, I had Seth Levin, the top agent in New York City, to talk on Facebook Live for 10 minutes. Just tell us what's the real estate market like in New York City. I know it's a buyer's market, so that I'm educating some of my people selling or anybody wanting to move to New York City. So it was a huge plug for him. He loved it. Obviously, we got to know each other very well, and he just sent me a referral.
There you go. Brilliant. I love it. Okay, John, and then Donna, and I think we're going to be out. So I'll finish my version of agent-to-agent referrals first thing tomorrow. But go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, I was listening to a Tim Ferry podcast not too long ago, and he was saying like by 2025, like somewhere around like half of all transactions will be like some kind of referral will be attached to it.
Yeah, you know what? From his lips to God's ears, because here's what we accomplish if that becomes truth. What we've accomplished is removing all of the aggregators.
Yep.
Right? If we remove the aggregators, who shall remain nameless, rhymes with pillow, rhymes with Peelter.com, right? If we remove the aggregators from the equation and just do a better job of doing business with our database and with each other, well, guess what? There is no third party earning all of the money that should be going into our pockets. So I hope to God that Mr. Ferry is correct on that. And the way we make it happen is by doing some of the things that we're talking about tonight and tomorrow in terms of creating opportunities. Your database shouldn't have to go to an aggregator site to get information. They should know that you are available for that information. You should be providing it to them so they don't have to go to an aggregator site, which is when you can possibly lose them, right? There's no reason why someone in South Carolina shouldn't know your name and send you the business instead of funneling it through some aggregator, right? Or having the client who's coming up to Connecticut from South Carolina use some aggregator site to find an agent. All those referral fees should be in your pocket, not a third-party competition company. Donna, bring us home. Then I'm going to have bratwurst.
Okay, sounds good. So you notice how my name is?
Mm-hmm.
Zoom. Always, when you're in on any of these groups, make sure you have some identifying thing. So if you haven't reached out to them, they know how to reach out to you. And just another reason to be on all the calls that we're talking about. I mean, I've got literally, this is no joke, 144, not only new referral sources, but really good friends now. When you're on those calls, raise your hand, say something. It's like you're auditioning for the business now, just like the little videos and Facebook Lives we were talking about. They have an idea of how you think, how you speak, how you show up. I mean, it's just incredible. You're not a cold call anymore when you're sending out a referral.
100%. That is so right. Donna, just to bring us home for the evening.
Yes.
So you are a daily participant in a lot of different things. One of them is James Shaw's 8 o'clock pivot shift ahead call.
Yes.
Have you received closed business in
Yes.
the last 12 months from that call?
Yep, working one right now. I have one, someone referred, and they get to, we get to know each other so deeply. I'm actually working with family members. It's like so my sister called and she wants to sell the condo, buy the condo, the house, whatever. They're referring you deep, close people to them, not just anyone, which I'll take also. But I mean, it really is amazing. It's because you show up consistently, regularly. You have something interesting to say, or you ask a question, or you're vulnerable, or you sound into, do something. People see you. This is an amazing medium. I know there are a lot of people who think that you can't build relationships, and yet you actually can, as long as you show up as your authentic self on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and you know what? Donna said 3 things I want you to underline. Show up, authentic, consistent. That's what it takes.
That's it.
Right? That's what it takes.
That's the
secret. Exactly right. Right. You know what? If you're new to our company, if you're new to real estate, do yourself a favor. Show up on all of our mastermind calls and say something. Show up on the 9 o'clock calls and have your camera on. Right. The whole point of this medium is it's a visual medium, or else we could just do a conference call. Right. And so if you're showing up and don't have your camera on, then you're not taking advantage of the visual medium that this is. Right. So when you show up into these calls, into masterminds, into our 9 o'clock calls, show up, be consistent about it, and be authentic. Right. And showing up means be seen. Right. If you want to make an impression with people, be seen, because the more you're seen and the more you're heard, I guarantee you, then someone's going to call and say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for sharing on those calls. Could we have you on a panel to share some of that stuff? And then you start getting some featured focused time, right? And now all of a sudden people are like, oh, well, okay, well, that's pretty smart. That's a brilliant idea. Maybe I should ask that person for some help. Maybe I should co-list my first property with that person. Maybe I should, right? And so it starts with your colleagues. It broadens to the larger picture, like those pivot shift calls, where now you're attracting business to yourself. But again, you're always modeling behavior. So what kind of agent are you? Are you an agent that shows up consistently, authentically, is seen and says something smart? Or are you not? Remember, you're always modeling behavior. So how are people seeing you? Guys, it is 6 o'clock. It has been my pleasure to spend time with you. I hope this was helpful. We're going to finish up source of business first thing tomorrow when I give you just another alternative to creating an agent-to-agent referral network. We'll talk about lead generation strategy and move into our seller unit. I'm so excited. Have an awesome evening. I'm going to have some bratwurst, baby. Feed them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.